What's up, guys? I know it's been a while. Well, I post like maybe once a week, if that. I try to somewhat stay consistent. Well, welcome to the channel. This is Deported but Not Defeated. My name is Mopac, and if you haven't subscribed, I hope that you subscribe and help the channel grow. Anyhow, today I wanted to talk about 20 years in prison. The biggest regret in prison is that not being there for my family. I guess you don't realize it. You don't realize the value, of family till you don't have it. You hang around with gang members and you're kind of looking for the sense of trying to belong to a gang or trying to belong to something because you're not finding it in your household, and you take it to the street and you look for that, and you end up going to jail because you're hanging around with the wrong people. You're hanging around with people who don't care about your well-being, and they're all in the same box, of doing things wrong. So you end up choosing to hang out with these guys, and your life turns for the worse and you end up committing crimes. And like me, I ended up going to prison for 20 years. I actually had a 29 to life sentence. And through those 20 years, your biggest regret is that you miss your family. You know that you end up doing the wrong thing and now you left your family down. And when you're in prison, you soon realize that the only people you can count is your family. I don't care who it is. You're gonna realize that really quick. Nobody. And every single inmate is gonna tell you the exact same thing. I regret not being there for them. I know they needed me since I'm the oldest one. I know they needed me for all kinds of things. I should have been there as a resource. I should have been there to protect them. I should have been there in case they needed anything. My biggest regret is that not being there for my family over all those years, and then having to grow up without me and not having to rely on me, not being able to rely on me. We all in our family had a rough childhood. We all kind of did our own thing, and my mom wasn't able to really control us. We didn't have a father figure. So it was kind of up to me, but I failed them. And that to me is like my biggest regret. It's something that I carry with me and I bear with me every single way. It's the weight on my shoulder that it's hard for me to sometimes get over. I've disappointed them in so many ways. I've disappointed a lot of people in so many ways. And that's something that it's hard for me to bear. One thing that I always remember, it was when my sister was kind of younger. And she tells me, when we were having a conversation on the phone, and I don't know what I was telling her, but it had something to do about us as a family. And I remember her telling us that I wasn't there for her, that I wasn't there for them, that I didn't walk them to school, that I didn't take care of them, that I wasn't there to protect them, that I wasn't there to help them through difficult times. And that has been one of the most difficult things that I have ever heard, because it's always pulled at me, it's always hurt me, and it's something that's always made me reflect on how you can let somebody down because of your selfish decisions, because you were not thoughtful, because you were not considerate. And that was me. I wasn't considerate. I wasn't thinking about anybody but myself at the time. I'm embarrassed of all that. I'm embarrassed of who I became, and I'm embarrassed that I wasn't the man that I was supposed to be to them and to everybody that knew me or in life. Get over, even though it's been years, even though that things are different now and I'm living freely and I'm living my life and I get to see them, but it's something that stays in the back of my head, and I continuously think about that, and I still regret it every single day. And it doesn't help that I'm here in Mexico. It even furthers that pain that I have because I can't be there for them. They still need me. I wish I could help them in any which way that I could, And I wish I could be somebody they could rely on, but they can't. I can't. That's the unfortunate part. And every single day is something that I have to deal with. And it's mentally always difficult for me. And I try to not think about it too much. See, there's so much things, so much content creators who talk about prison, and they kind of like glorify that lifestyle. They talk about it. And that's not me. I'm not here to glorify my 20 years in prison. I'm not here to glorify all the time that I spent in California Corrections Facility. That's not what this is about. I'm way past that. My mentality is way past that. My mentality today is somebody has a lot of wisdom and would speak against that and can speak against that type of life. So my point of it all is I would like to be able to share my experience, share who I am, share the person that I am, share the person that I wish I could be, and show what the reality of that kind of lifestyle and being deported out here in Mexico. I wish that I could have been somebody better. I wish I could have been somebody who would have influenced my family, somebody who would have been there for them, a hard worker, a provider, somebody they can lean against in difficult times, which my family has gone through very many difficult times. How I see things today, man, that's a real man. There's nothing to glorify about prison. There's nothing to glorify about that lifestyle. The glory comes in being a good man, a good hardworking person, somebody who's there for your family. That is the most precious thing that you can do in this lifetime. Demonstrate how you can change, even though that you've been through that type of lifestyle, that change is possible. You can completely change and become a person that you always wanted to be, somebody that deserves to live a good quality of life. So, with that being said, we all have our hurts, we all have our pain, we all have our secrets, we all have all this baggage that we carry with each other, in each other. And it's something that we just live with, but like I said, we try to make the best, and we try to change our lives, and we try to do something better. And here I am doing the best that I can, given a second chance at life, and I'm trying to make the best out of it. And I hope that, somehow, if you're watching this and you're in the same situation, that this may help you and encourage you in many ways. I just wanted to share that because it's something that always tugs at me, is the regrets that I have in life, and I'll continue to share my perspective on the life that I've lived and the life that I live out here. So if you're interested, I hope that you follow. And until next time, thank you for watching.